Hello and welcome everyone to the Things That Made Us podcast, a podcast that is taking place in a galaxy far, far away today. Yes, that's right, a galaxy far, far away, because today we are going to be talking about a subject that is very near and dear to me, as well as everyone else who is a part of this show today, which, coming from a time zone far, far away, I got my co-host here, Masaya. What's going on?
Far, far away, as far as central of the United States, Texas specifically.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm doing great, man.
That's good. I'm good. Good to hear that, man. Good to hear that. And also today we got a special guest with me, someone who grew up on the moisture farms of Arby's with me back in Tatooine. We got my homie here, Deepak. I'm sorry, bro. What's going on, man?
Man, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about my favorite thing in the entire galaxy.
That's right.
Yeah,
that is right, man. Yep. So everyone
honor to be here.
That's right. I'm glad to have you, man. Because this guy, again, we'll get into it later, but he kind of relit the spark of Star Wars hope back in me. So we'll get into that. But today we are talking about Star Wars. Star Wars is going to be the subject because all of us. It has played, at least from a little to a lot of a part of our life and a role that kind of helped us get to a point where we are today. I feel like, we'll get into it more. But before that, I kind of want to, do what we did last time. So let me get into the entertainment arc real quick. So
welcome back.
I made a little intro for that entertainment arc. That's right. We're in the entertainment arc. So you guys, what have you guys been up to? What are you doing? What's your thing right now? Besides Star Wars, what are you guys into? Or if it is Star Wars, go for it.
Then good job. Yeah. On par for the course.
Yeah.
So I'll go first just so I can get it started here. I've been playing games. I love video games, as I mentioned last time. Valorant is the game of choice, unfortunately. So nothing has changed since the last time. I love my shooters, but something that I have been getting into recently is Riot's card game, which is Legends of Runeterra. And something like that to me is like great because I was a huge Hearthstone fan, but I was just so tired of like trying to stay within like the meta and me spending money. And it was just like a time, like it was a money suck, bro. It was literally every 3 months I was buying a new expansion and it just felt horrible. So somebody told me that Legends of Runeterra was a kind of like Marvel Snap. It was kind of more friendly to free-to-play people. So I've been picking that up and I've been enjoying it. I play that thing every day.
So just the card games, like, the chillin' card games, but you can still be a little more competitive with it, right? So,
oh, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I need to get into it. I haven't played it yet, but I'll definitely get into it because, I'll let the guest go first. T-Bone, what are you up to?
I love how Messiah said Valorant, unfortunately. That's pretty good.
Every Valorant player is like, I play Valorant.
Yeah. Me, man, what have I been into? If you happen to be here and you're from the KYBER Culture podcast,
that's right.
And I'm a big World of Warcraft player. I've been playing since I was pretty much on and off since the game came out. So like 2004, almost 20 years. It's a little sad, but you know what? I love it. I just found that I was decent at it, and you know what? I love the fantasy of it. I love pretty much all aspects of it, and there's a new season out, so that means new raid, bunch of new content. So that's pretty much been filling all of my time, except really the only other thing I've been doing is, well, in terms of gaming, is playing Jedi Survivor, which just came out. End of April?
Yeah.
So it's been almost a month. Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Has it been? It's been that long?
Yeah.
I feel like it was like 2 weeks ago for some reason. I don't know why.
I know.
Dang.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, it's a blast. It's there's so much feeling from Fallen Order, but there's a lot more possibilities. It feels like the universe is way bigger. Ooh. But I've been taking it slowly because I've just been so invested into WoW. But I also don't want the game to end like ever. So I'm kind of just taking it chunk by chunk. And yeah, no, it's been a blast. But that's pretty much it in my world for entertainment. Just really those two things. What about you, Gary?
Me, I've also, had the unfortunate turn of events to be playing Valorant as well. I also play Valorant, and unfortunately, it's great because it's fun to win. It sucks to lose. I feel like the past week or so I've taken a break away from it and been playing a lot more of Teamfight Tactics, which is Riot's other little like auto chess game, and really been investing in that because I'm trying to rank up, and it's just so like kind of like the card game. It's so easy. You just kind of, put your board together. You don't have to think too much, and you let them, work it out and see what happens and wins. And I like those kind of games. So that's why I kind of want to get into Legends of Runeterra. But yeah, I've been doing that. And I don't know if I talked about it last time. I think I did. I also been doing some music production. So I just been working on some music. Just dropped a song this Friday. Called Toxic. It's a little bit more EDM house vibes to it. So if you like that, go ahead and check it out anywhere you get your music, Spotify, Apple Music. Yes, self plug there.
We love that.
But I mean, it's what I've been doing. I really like music, and I want to make it more. So like, really been getting into that, and not too much on game. I mean, I do game, but I will say there was one shocking game that I have been playing because I think it's also a little more subtle with the gameplay. I didn't think I was gonna like, which is Marvel's Midnight Suns. It's like a card action game. It's like what is that game called? It's like XCOM. Yeah, it's like XCOM, where it's like like a strategy turn based where you move your characters, but instead of like them attacking, you have cards that you have to use attacks and chain stuff together, which is really cool. I didn't think I would like it, but I do. So I think my brain is just like, let's play something simple, please, because you can't handle anything else.
Yeah.
Let's just do simple games. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've had for the entertainment. So yeah. Guess that's it for us, right? Nothing else.
That's what we've been doing.
That's what we've been doing in the entertainment district. So yeah, we'll get right into it. Today's topic, as we already said, Star Wars, I want to ask you guys, what is Star Wars to you? Like, what is Star Wars to you? What is it like, just the base idea in your brain when you think of Star Wars?
Oh, man.
How do you say it in like one sentence?
I guess it's like, yeah, how do you think of like if you're talking to someone who's never heard of Star Wars, like, how do you tell them, like what Star Wars is, I guess?
I mean, I guess you would kind of be able to relate it to Lord of the Rings, maybe. Like, it's a fantasy, it's Marvel. Right now, technically, it is going in the direction, I feel like, of Marvel movies, where we're starting to get these shows. And unironically, they're both owned by Disney, so no surprises there when they're taking the same directions as far as what they want to do with their shows and their movies. But if you like Marvel, and if you like the idea of it being superheroes and this and that, and some of these superheroes you heard of, chances are you have probably heard of a character called Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker or Yoda, or the most recent one, Grogu or Baby Yoda. So if you're into fantasy, space fantasy like Star Trek, maybe you've heard of that one. Star Wars is, a good, I don't know, you could call it a Game of Thrones, any kind of fictional, but now it's set in space in the future. There's good, there's evil, there's the big powering overlords, and then there's the small oppressed people that are trying to dethrone the powerful evil empire, literally empire. So it's good. I mean, I kind of went all over with that answer, but think of it as just a futuristic space rendition of like some of your favorite series that such as Game of Thrones or Marvel.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it is pretty much a space opera, right? Like that's,
yeah.
It's just like,
I could have easily just said that. Why didn't you answer your own question?
Because I feel like that's a cop out, It's a cop out, but I just wanted to get your guys' like thoughts on it. Like you two, like what else, like what do you think Star Wars is like when you try to explain it,
Well, my first response would be this isn't how I would explain it to somebody, but Star Wars is my religion. Like, like straight up, not like I'm sitting here like praying to the Force, every night.
Yeah.
But like I think you guys know what I mean. Like it keeps me grounded. It's like part of my foundation. It's, it's helped me get through some seriously like dark times in my life. And I'm like so thankful that something like it exists in the world. Yes. But if I were to explain it to somebody who's never seen it before, honestly, it's a fandom, it's a culture, it's a community, like a tight, well, part of the community is not very tight knit and is a little,
yes,
we just don't even acknowledge them.
There are Star Wars fans and there are Star Wars fans. So yeah. You
guys know how everybody knows how the internet can be. Yeah. And
yes.
Star Wars is not safe from it. But yeah, I mean, and if you've never seen Star Wars before, not to repeat too much of what Masaya said, just the fact that there's so much content of it out there, like comic books, shows, movies, just start somewhere. And even if you don't like it at first, I would advise you to just like keep consuming it. And I just feel like there's something in it for everybody. And if you just keep going, like something is going to like speak to your heart and you're going to love it. And if you don't, you're entitled to your opinion, but
this is true. But
Star Wars
you're
is
gonna like
S
it,
tier, so you're gonna like it.
If you like a little bit of like action and fantasy stuff, you're gonna like Star Wars. Yeah. Star Wars, it feels like it's for a lot of people. So
yeah, it's got the classic tropes, the hero's journey, the good versus evil, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
It's I can't recommend it enough if you've never seen any Star Wars before, but. Enough of me. What about you, Gary?
Yeah. So before you answer, like he said something. I'm going to call you T-Bone. T-Bone, you said something because it's like you said it helped you get through some dark times. So you probably think to yourself, if you're watching this or listening to this, you're like, what is it? There's some sort of, that's like saying like, watching the Avengers got this person through a hard time, in his life.
Yeah.
Somebody at my work was gifted. We currently have like a Star Wars group, and we hang out, we go bowling, we go eating, we do all that stuff at our job. It's like these are paid professionals, or like some of us have kids, some of them are married. So one of my coworkers got gifted a card set, and in that card set was like 4 different categories, and she would just be like, "You need to go pick a card." So you'd go to the box, you'd open up the little box, and there'd be these big old, like almost index cards. And a certain color contained like a quote, like for inspiration. Another color contained a quote for, having a hard time right now. Another color had another quote. And it was just like, she's like, go ahead. And she would like flash them out like a deck of cards, and she'd be like, pick one. And then you just pick one, and you would look at it, you'd read it, and it's a quote from the movie. It's a quote from, any of the movies that exist or any of the shows, and you would just read it, and you'd be like, I needed that. I really needed that. Like you read it, and you just think to yourself, like, ooh, like I needed to know that. Like whatever I just read from a character that spoke this in the movie just speaks to me right now in this specific situation. So I loved how T-Bone mentioned that, because that's what this fandom, that's what this culture brings out. It's not just media. It's not just entertainment. It's friendships. It's bonds. It's uplifting, and it's things that get you out of dark times.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. That's freaking deep, man. Honestly, I didn't have that first initial thought like right now, but when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, what Star Wars does give me. It really does. Like sometimes I think back to some moments and I'm like, oh damn, that was great. Like that really, I feel like if I was in a situation, I would need that kind of push to like, it's Star Wars is great. That's why we're here. I don't even know how to follow that up, man. Like Star Wars to me is kind of the same. It's like an in-between mix of you guys and stuff. It's pretty much so ingrained in me that I can't unthink of Star Wars. Star Wars is so a part of my life. Like I could quote things. I know so much, and it has also gotten me through some times where I didn't think I would, be able to. Like the games have been a part of my life for so long. I know so much about the games and the story that like it's just I don't know. Like, I don't know who I would be if Star Wars wasn't in my life. You know, I can't think about that. It's crazy to think like that. And a thought occurred to me because last week we talked about like, and anime stuff, like anime tropes and everything. Like, Star Wars is pretty much an American shonen anime, but like live action, right? It's a boy going on adventure, right? You know, getting power up, level, going through a story. It's pretty much the American version of a shonen anime. And I realized, like, man, is this part of why I like anime so much? Because Star Wars is like, like Star Wars could have been a part of that too, And the story, it feels like it's very simplistic, but that's okay. It's one of the original ones of those types of stories. The adventure, going on an adventure. Besides that, or like Dune and Star Wars are like the original, going on adventure. And it's just, I think when you're younger and you see that, you're like, oh, I want to do that too. But like, you think about all the struggles that they went through, but they, persevered through all of it. It's like, dang, I think we could all use a little bit of that encouragement in our life. So yeah, Star Wars is, I don't know, it's just a part of my life, and I can't really put it into more words besides I feel like I can't live without it,
No, it's so part of you now. It's like, I can't remove it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I kind of wanted to get into, like, because we talked about it. What was your like first experience, like, knowing what Star Wars is, or like it ringing into you, like, this is Star Wars, like growing up, like what was Star Wars for you growing up? Like, what was the first movie or something you saw or tour, anything? Like, what was that? So,
I mean, I'll answer first. I think for me, it was kind of like everybody knows who Darth Vader was. Mm-hmm. But I just never knew where he was from. Like, where's this big bad villain, this big bad scary guy in a black costume? Where does he come from? Why are people like, why does he have like this intimidating factor? And so I think I would see, growing up, I saw bits and pieces of the original trilogy.
Yeah.
But the first actual movie I probably saw, like, from start to finish was of the sequels, or sorry, the prequels. Man, we were going to have arguments based on that, right? But it's like episode 1. I'll just leave it like that. Episode 1 was like the first movie I saw from beginning to end. And it was like, okay, what is this? And as I got older, not only did I take more of a liking to it, but it was all like, man, I got to rewatch the old stuff. You know how some people nowadays, they're kind of like, the animations, the acting, it was done so long ago. Why would you want to watch it? Just watch the new stuff. It's got cool effects. It's got better actors. It's got this and that. But I think if you truly fall in love with something, whether it be anime, whether it be movies, cinematography, anything, music, like, you have an appreciation for it. So I started digging in. I started watching all the older stuff, and I was like, okay, wait, this is a universe. And now here we are in 2023, and they're making it that way. But my first experience, probably when I was younger, bits and pieces, and then just started with episode 1 and just slowly snowballed into understanding what Star Wars was as a whole.
Dang. It's pretty, same. I honestly say for me, because I was talking, I think, to my mom about it not too long ago. I'm pretty sure, like, I knew what Star Wars was, but it didn't register to me because when I was younger, I used to play soccer like all the time, going to soccer tournaments, on this whatever spring select team, traveling to different parts of the California, going out of state. And I remember the first movie I saw also was episode 1 in theaters on a soccer tournament. And I just remember, like, I was blown away by the Duel of Fates, the music, the choreography, going between the space battle and then them fighting. And like, that stuck with me so much that, again, we might get into it later. I think that, like, that moment, even without nostalgia, is like, that's like the number one live action Jedi lightsaber fight. And I will, that's the hill I will die on. That's how I feel. Like, that whole feeling of like tension and like, you want the good guys to win, but it's looking a little grim. Like, that whole thing, I'll never forget that in theaters, like, just everyone quiet and silent when that thing happened. But other than that, the rest of the movie was good too. But yeah, so same, man. Episode 1 was really my introduction. So
yeah, T-Bone.
Yeah, no, I had a feeling we are all probably gonna have the same answer because we're all part of the same generation. Yeah, we're all part of the same generation. And same for me. I think I was 10 or 11. I didn't see it in theaters, but I think I got it on DVD.
Yeah.
And I watched it. I watched The Phantom Menace probably like 4 or 5 times in a matter of a couple weeks. And there was just something about like young Anakin that either I did resemble with or wanted to resemble with.
Yes.
It's kind of like Gary was saying, like you see these characters going on these adventures and you want to do them.
Exactly.
You want to go on them as well, even though they're experiencing all this conflict, right? Like, because people don't like conflict, but you learn things through conflict, right?
Exactly. Right. Yep.
And it's crazier too, because I feel like even when I was that young, I kind of understood the commercialism behind Star Wars. You know, it's like, oh, Star Wars is like the big, like, mainstream, like this is cinema, right? Like this is the top dog. Especially considering the Phantom Menace came out, it's been 40 years since
like
the last, 30, 40 years. Yeah. Since the last movie came out. So it was a big deal. It was a big deal when we were that young. And yeah, I loved everything about that movie. I even had a bowl cut like the actor
like young Anakin.
Like young Anakin.
Oh, Nick Lloyd. Oh,
yeah,
me.
Yeah,
you had the bowl cut. Oh, that's funny.
Where's my speed racer?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I want a Gungan as a friend and freaking Liam Neeson as my pretty much dad.
God, that would be amazing.
You would never get kidnapped, and if you did, you'd be found immediately.
Yep. And you would have a dad who'd committed several felonies.
But you're good.
Yeah, it's that movie holds the most special place in my heart for sure. And man, it's just crazy looking back on that movie too, because we'll get into this a little bit more, I'm sure, but just piecing everything together as time has gone on and like as we've grown up is like the most fun part about this whole thing. Like, even with, you know, the original movies not being the first chronologically and kind of moving backwards and forwards and then going in between and all that, it's like, I don't know. I feel like if I had to choose between growing up with like in the 70s and seeing Star Wars when it very first came out, and between that and now, like how I grew up on Star Wars, I'd still think I'd like to grow up the way I grew up on it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't change it.
Yeah. Would definitely not change it. But yeah, Phantom Menace, definitely my first real experience with Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, we're all kind of pretty much, again, we're all millennials, so we grew up with that. Like, Star Wars, definitely. Man, it was a side thought, but like, I remember back in the day, remember we used to have to wait in line for everything? I remember like being outside the movie theater, wrapped around the corner like twice just to get into the movies to see Star Wars. Episode 1 and 2, man. That was crazy. What a time. Before
and even all the way, so that episode 1 and 2, right? I think early 2000s.
Yeah.
So when episode 7 came out, I went to go watch it, and me and my friends were gonna watch it like the day it dropped. And I don't know, maybe we're gonna get too much into it, or into it later, but I don't want to touch too much. Complete fandom. Everybody dressed out in costumes. There was like about 9 different lines outside of the theater, and you would have to go to the line and be like, "Are you the 850 showing?" And he's like, "No, I'm actually the 920." He's like, "Crap, that's not my line." "Okay, are you the 850 showing?" He's like, "No, I'm actually the 9 o'clock showing." It's like, "Crap, okay." And you're going through all these different, like 20 years later, or not 20 years later, but I mean, roughly like 15, 16 years later.
Round up here.
Just for episode 7, a brand new trilogy was about to begin, and all that time later, and people are still going crazy. People are rushing to the theaters, especially after being like on a hiatus for so long, right? The Star Wars franchise was pretty much just limited to what games, books, all that stuff. But when it came to cinema, like nothing had come out since episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. So yeah, man, that fandom, that craziness, that like excitement that people have, like that will always be there, guaranteed for this next trilogy that comes out too. The same results, whether you love it or you hate it. Besides the fact, there's still going to be people there, and I'm going to be one of them. So
I don't know if you guys have this mindset, but for me, it's pretty much biased, but like only certain things have like it's this thing, so I'll give it like a little cushion when I grade it, like it's not too bad. Star Wars is one of those things, like no matter what, it can almost do no wrong. It'll land softly like it won't be like, oh, this is hot garbage. Like I'll always think, well, it's Star Wars, so I have to, give it a little bit of a. That's how great Star Wars is to me. I feel like no matter like how bad it is, I still won't think it's like as bad as something else could be. It's very rare things out there that could have that. And Star Wars is one of those things.
It's you saying that just reminds me of this meme that I think is viral for a little bit, and it's Keanu Reeves, I think, from one of the John Wick movies, where he's got a glass of wine and he starts drinking it and he's like crying, and it's basically saying like, all right, you have to choose between like killing your best friends or never watching Star Wars again, and it's just him drinking a glass of wine crying. I'm like, yeah, sorry,
all my friends are dead.
He's like turning on the Star Wars movies crying. You're like, that's funny. Yeah, that's
ain't that serious, but
true. I got you. Yeah, 100%. But do you guys think, like, I feel like Star Wars was one of the series of franchises and just crazy, not everything, all of it, the IP is one of the things that pushed nerdom into the mainstream. I feel like Star Wars was one of the things that pioneered nerd culture being cool, early on, right? There wasn't that much stuff. I feel like, well, our time, I feel like we were in the middle. At least for me growing up, it was like Star Wars was okay to be a nerd cool with Star Wars. Other things like, ooh, you like Marvel, you like that, like, oh, you're a nerd. But Star Wars, like, oh, that's the cool nerd stuff. I don't know if you guys kind of have that same thought process, but yeah, that's kind of what I felt like growing up. Star Wars kind of helped push, oh, it's okay to be a nerd a little bit and like this kind of stuff, What do you guys think?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I would probably agree with you on that sense. Even in today's day and age, I think being a nerd or a geek, with whether it be Marvel, whether it be Star Wars, whether it be anime or any of that stuff, like that is like socially acceptable now, which I love because growing up, I almost played like both sides of the fence. Like I was in sports, so I hung out with one type of crew, but then I was like, I love video games, Star Wars, and all this other stuff. So I hung out with like both, and I was being dragged in both different directions. But luckily, I turned out okay. So, but to me, it was like you couldn't mix the two. Back then growing up, like it was like you're either a geek or you're a jock, and that's what it is. And I feel like now, especially maybe our generation or maybe even kids that are younger than us, like you think to yourself like, man, this is a lot more acceptable. Like Star Wars is like a table talk, discussion. Like people know what the Mandalorian is. People know what Loki is. Like people talk like I don't even know what Marvel is, man, but everybody's telling me watch Loki on Disney Plus. Hey, I don't even know what Star Wars is, but everybody's saying go check out Mandalorian. Like you're gonna love it. And I think like now it's been pushed into like it's okay.
Yes.
Like don't worry, watch it, enjoy it. And to me, that's awesome because kind of like what T-Bone said, like you get into it, you consume a little bit. And even if you think to yourself, like, you know what, I may not like this as much as my Game of Thrones. It's like, keep going little by little. Yep. You're going to develop. You're going to see that this is a bigger universe. This is a grander scheme of things. And you're just like on the tip of the iceberg right now. And I think, I think like right now it's definitely more acceptable. So.
Oh, yeah.
That's what
absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. I love that it's so socially acceptable and has become more of a standard to be somewhere on the nerd or geek spectrum, whatever it may be, Lord of the Rings, frickin' Game of Thrones, high fantasy, low fantasy, whatever it is. I mean, I feel like, especially like when we were younger, like nerds and geeks actually like got bullied for that kind of stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is messed up. And now it's like, I never was in that position, but I was like a skater and like all this other stuff too. So it was like, I didn't kind of feel that way necessarily, but like for people that did get bullied for being a nerd, where like you're super smart, you got all these Star Wars action figures, like it makes me feel even happier that now they can feel more okay with themselves about like, who they are and what they love, Yes. But yeah, no, it's it's awesome. And I especially feel like the day and age of that we're in with, information and information dissemination and social media. Like, I mean, you see like these videos of people spending $3 million to make their mansion look like the inside of the Death Star.
Yeah.
And like all of this, like this social media that's been like pushed onto us, I feel like has definitely helped propel what you were saying, Gary, like helping push this to become more acceptable. And it's something that everybody can enjoy. People can bond over it. It can create friendships. I love it. It just puts a smile on my face, a smile on my heart.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah. I brought it up, but it reminded me because I feel like we all, now that I think about it, we all kind of had this like, yeah, I was a nerd, but I played sports. So like I was cool, but like, like even me too, like I played sports.
I used to call like games.
Yeah. I called myself like an undercover nerd. Like I played sports.
Yes.
So I hide the fact that I was a nerd. So when they see that I was a nerd, they're like, oh, you're a nerd, but you play sports still? I guess you're cool. Like it's one of those things. Like, I guess you're all right. Like, yeah. Cause I remember even growing up too, like I forgot, I think it was when the episode 3 came out, but I remember I had a birthday party for my, with my soccer team and they came over, we had a sleepover, or maybe it's between episodes, one of those, but it had to be episode 3 because I remember someone got me, my neighbor, Matt, got me the Lego Star Wars set. And I think when episode 3 came out, what was that? We were old enough where I think you're like, oh, if you like Star Wars now, besides watching the movies and you get stuff, like you're a real nerd. So I remember he got me the Lego set with Mustafar and like the fight between them. And I had to sleep over with the rest of my soccer team and everyone's like, what? You got... Dude, that's so lame. And I was like, nah, bro, you don't understand. Like, no. Like, you don't understand.
Lame to you, maybe.
Yeah, lame to you, because we were playing Lego Star Wars, and I remember everyone fell asleep besides me and my other friend, and we built that entire Lego thing that entire night, and like everyone else woke up to it, seeing it, and they're like, what the? Wow, you guys really stayed up the whole night and built this? Like, yeah, again, bro, you just don't get it, man. Like, it's amazing. Like, Star Wars is great. Yeah. Like, and now, like you said, nowadays, those people are like probably big Star Wars fans. It's okay now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just remembered that. I was like, dang. Yeah, people used to, I remember they tried, but I guess I was still too cool because I played sports. They couldn't get me.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know exactly what you're talking about because I was in the same way, but just with basketball, right? So it was like, you're like, hey, we're going to have practice. It's like, yeah, cool. And then next thing you know, like, that night I'm playing like Gauntlet Legacy on the GameCube with me and my friends, and we're all like 4 controllers hooked up and we're playing, and I'm all like, bro, these people, if they knew that I was hanging out with these people, they probably would be like, why are you hanging out with them? But I don't care because I love games and they love games too. So I'm gonna do it, right? Yeah. And it was just, back then it was a little different, to now it's a little bit more mainstream, a little bit more easily digested by not just geeks and nerds, but by your average person.
I mean, you get a 12-pack of Mountain Dew, 3 pizzas, and your favorite friends, Halo 2, and 4 controllers, man. That's a good night.
Tried and true since Xbox, baby.
Man, the classic LAN parties, man. Those are good times. I was going to ask too, like, what are like some, because I brought up the Lego stuff. What are some like non-mainstream, like movie Star Wars things that like you guys are into? Like, is there anything besides, are you just into like the movies, or do you get into like other things? Because I feel like Star Wars, like they build a big picture with the movies, but then they've done such an excellent job of like filling in little gaps of time between the stuff with other things, whether it be games or novels or anything. So I didn't know if there was any other kind of Star Wars content that you absorb besides like the movies, Yeah. So for me, unfortunately, I haven't really gotten too much into the games, and I know that's like, I love single player games, but unfortunately I love multiplayer games more. So the things that and unfortunately, here we go, right? Unfortunately. Most of the great Star Wars games are like single player. They're like, you're hitting a story, you're hitting the ground running, you're enjoying the experience. It's the story. The multiplayer games, things like Battlefront and Squadrons. We played Battlefront. We played Battlefront together, remember?
We did play Battlefront together. And like, to me, like, I love that stuff. Being able to play with other people, being able to play against people. Like, Greedy knows that's my go-to in video games. Fortunately, I do not have collectibles because I would be so far in the crapper with money because I at work, bro, literally my office and right across from me. So I work in computers, but we're housed in the same building. And in my same hallway is a counselor. Now, this counselor has all different kinds of Star Wars on his wall. I'm talking magazines, like what you got there, T-Bone. He's got, comics, sorry. And like what he has, like portraits. He has, almost like the film negatives. I don't know what they're called, but like he has like the film negative they bought. Like he has lights. He's got books. He's got quotes. He has a whiteboard that has like Yoda quotes and he changes it like every month. Like he's constantly doing everything Star Wars and like everybody knows him as the Star Wars guy. And you ask him like, how much has he spent on collectibles? And he's just like, ooh, I can't tell you that. He's like, let's just say that. He's like, let's just say that my wife is going to hate me if she ever were to ask me that question. He's like, I got boxes. I got basements. I got attics. He's like, I have storage units. He's like, I have everything Star Wars. And I love it. I love going with him. I love going to any type of Star Wars event and seeing him go crazy for this stuff. But thank goodness I have not done any of that. I'm more of your basic pink drink Star Wars consuming here, where it is mostly just the movies and the TV shows. And for me, I love it. I mean, I know about the comics. I know about, the non-canonical stuff, canonical stuff. I know about the games. I just haven't consumed it as much as I would want to. But that's where I am.
Hey, that's cool.
I'm the purple drink of Star Wars.
That's okay, man. You're not a fan. No, I'm just kidding. That's what those other fans would say,
I was gonna say.
But no, that's totally fine. What about you, T-Bone?
I mean, man, if you want to start with collectibles, I'm sure you guys can see it.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Right
Yeah.
That's like half of it, but it's, like Masaya was saying, it's like, I'm glad you're not getting into the collectible thing. Yeah.
I have no self-control with that, man. Yes.
So yeah, I got Funko Pops. I got a couple omnibus, like the thick, like entire collections of a couple series of like the Old Republic comics, Dr. Aphra, which is really interesting. And I hope that they make like maybe an animated show or even a live action show about her. I just picked up some lightsabers a couple months ago. Some
nice.
like, and they're not like the Disney park lightsabers. They're nice. They're pretty nice.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things where I was like, I don't think I needed to buy that, but you know what? You only live once, and I love it. It gives my room, like my gaming setup, it makes me feel at home, and I think that's worth the money. Damn, what you whipping out over there?
Those aren't
you
skis.
Reminded me. I was like, not the Disney ones. I was like, oh, oopsies.
No, it ain't like that. No,
I got you.
Now you're not the real Star Wars fan. Kick him out.
I think it was really about the experience. I really like these. How do I turn this on?
It was made in Disney. Oh,
yes, sir.
Nice.
It's really about the actual handle, though. Like these,
the hilt.
The hilts are super nice, but
you get them from
stuff too. Dang.
Yeah.
You get them from Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, I got them from Galaxy's Edge,
nice.
And again, really about the experience, and the hilt is really the part that I'm like, I don't like the blade, cool, whatever, but the hilt is the thing that really goes with whatever cosplay I want to do, which is another thing. So
I gotta hit Galaxy's Edge.
Oh, this one's
before I die.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was gonna say, you haven't been to Galaxy?
Dude, I've been to Disneyland like 20 times, but it was all before Galaxy's Edge.
Oh man,
it wasn't installed. Yeah. We'll make a trip down there. I mean, my parents live near Anaheim, so it's
okay.
It ain't no biggie.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of other content, got some comic books I still need to finish. Like I was saying, books, we'll talk about some books later. I got Gary into the Thrawn trilogies, which are just absolutely phenomenal. I think it's actually, they are the best Star Wars stories out there, even including the shows and the movies. But we'll talk about that later.
Yep.
My buddy got me onto the Thrawn trilogy a few years ago, and he had only read the first book. So I started reading it, or I started listening to the audiobook, and I was just like, this is so good. And I read all 3 trilogies, and I was like, my buddy's name's Derek. I was like, I can't thank you enough for turning me on to this. This is freaking awesome. Other stuff though, video games. I was big on a lot of the games when I was younger. The Knights of the Old Republic games, I absolutely loved. They were so good. It doesn't age well. Like the combat and all that stuff doesn't age very well, but the stories are amazing. The Outcast games, the Academy games, Rogue Squadron games, the original Battlefront games were awesome.
Yes.
So good.
Oh man. Dang.
I didn't actually play the newer Battlefronts that much because I heard that they were like pay to win. So I was like, I don't really want to play them then.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go back though.
Yeah, I think if you have a squad, it's a lot more enjoyable. Like most of the Battlefront games. But yeah, you're right. I've heard the thing over and over again. It's like if you played Battlefront, I always get those tongue tied.
The Battlefield.
Like Battlefront 1 and 2, like those are completely different than what you're gonna get in this modern edition. Which when I heard about it, I was like, no, I was looking so forward to it.
I know. They're different.
Yeah, they're different. I will say, like the original ones, like they're the top tier of the Star Wars like Battlefront games for sure. Like I put so many summers, so many winters with friends playing those games. So, I mean, so many, like constantly almost like breaking the game, figuring out how to do every single little thing so much that like we destroy the game. It was insane. But yeah, the new ones were cool because they look good, But like the first one was all right. It was cool. It wasn't much to it. No story. It was just like upgraded Battlefront. But the second one, when it first launched, that's when they had the thing where it was like microtransactions and you could only get so many points for free before you can't even afford to get anything. Yeah. And then after all that, when the game was already about to go down the stinker, they're like, hey, we got rid of that system. You could just do it for free now. It's like, it's too late. You betrayed me. You were supposed to be the chosen one. You were supposed to. It's too late now.
You're supposed to.
You were my brother, EA.
You're supposed to defeat the microtransactions, not join them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You reminded me. I remember, the Rogue Squadron games, like on like N64 I had. Dang, those games, There's been a lot of good Star Wars games.
Speed Racer on the PC is how I played it.
Oh,
dang.
So Star Wars Speed Racer, I would go to my friend's house and would be like, yo, load it up. And then we'd just be there behind his computer and just enjoy the heck out of the game.
Did you guys ever play the arcade Star Wars story game? There was an arcade game where you like had like the joystick and you like even do like the lightsaber, you'd fight like Darth Vader, you do like there was like 3 missions. You like do the Death Star run, you go to Hoth, and then you go do the second Death Star run. But in between, you would like have a Jedi fight where you would be Luke Skywalker and you have to like deflect like Boba Fett's shots and everything. It's like an arcade game. And there was also a pod racing game too. I don't know if you guys were
the pod racing one.
Pod racing game
was fun.
Yeah.
Hella fun.
Yeah, those were, man.
There's like throughout time, like since we were young, there have been a lot of great games. I mean, there was even Republic Commando.
That was a good one.
Was there? That was a good one. But it's like Masaya kind of mentioned it. It's like I'm the same way. Like I play video games to play with my friends, and especially since like most of my friends are still back down in SoCal. It's like my main way of like still socializing with people, like on being on Discord and playing games like with my homies. So it's hard to like put that time aside in an era where like most of the good Star Wars games are all single player. Mm-hmm. Even if you're in Discord and you're like streaming, like people want to watch, whatever. It's just not.
It's not the same.
It's not the same,
Yeah.
But I will recommend, and I haven't finished it yet, if you guys have the itch, you can sign up for EA Play, like the Plus, pay $15 for it for a month, and download Survivor instead of buying the whole game. It's fun. It's really fun. I don't know if you guys played Fallen Order, but highly recommend it.
Fallen Order,
sure.
Yeah, I did play. I think I got it maybe 2 years ago on like the May the 4th. It was like $9. So like, I can't not get this, you know? So I did get it. And it was fun. It was a fun game. I enjoyed it. There was nothing wrong with the story or the gameplay. It's just that it crashed so much. That was the only thing on PC. That was it. Yeah. I remember there's one point where I got to so far in the level and I was sliding down one of the sliding parts and I fell through the map. And then I kept falling for like 2 minutes, and then the game crashed, and it sent me to the very beginning of the map. Like it just didn't care about the saves. It sent me to the beginning. I was like, nah, I'm good for now. And then I came back to it later. But it's a great game. Like I still don't get me wrong. I finished it because I'm like, no, I have to because this game is great. Don't care about the bugs. I'll get through it. But I needed like a mental break because I couldn't.
It's frustrating as hell.
Yeah,
when that kind of stuff happens.
Yes.
Yeah, but dang.
Yeah, I mean, for me, in terms of other content, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm so looking forward to the future of Star Wars, and I'll leave it there. Leave it there.
I'll say, yeah, definitely. Like for me, you've recently got me into. I got to say, it's like again, he got me into the Thrawn books. I was so immersed. I think I felt like I was like a fiend. Like I needed it. Like when I first talked to him about it, he's like, yeah, you got to get these. And I was like, which ones? I need it now. Cause it was after like, I think the second to last episode of, The Mandalorian season 3, which, you know, great show again. And I was like, I need to know Thrawn. Like I remember seeing him in stuff. I didn't really know who he was. And again, I thought I was a big Star Wars fan, but I was like, no, I didn't even understand yet. Like Thrawn is one of the characters, you know, the blue man from Star Wars that everyone talks about.
The blue man group, yeah.
The blue man group. Yeah, like the original, I guess it's Legends now, right? The Legends trilogy is like something else. Like, you're right, that storytelling, I was like, dude, I already thought I wanted to be in this world. Now I really want to be in this world. This world is amazing. Like the whole story, like the way the narrator talks and stuff, like I feel like I'm in it. And that's one of the great things about Star Wars too. Again, like the little stories they tell in between the main things are like out of this world. Almost like, I think you said it, right? Almost better than kind of, I feel like the storytelling they do for the main stuff, which is still good, but it's just, I like to hear like, oh, what was Lando or what was Han doing at this time after all this stuff happened, you know, after they destroyed the second Death Star. But yeah.
It's just to piggyback on you a little bit. It's much different when you have the Star Wars movies where you have, and even the shows where you have so many hands in the pot and are involved in the projects. It's hard to make a continuously well told, substantially well written story. Whereas the Thrawn books, it's Timothy Zahn. Like that's it. It's the writer. It's the amazing narrator, Mark Thompson, the sound effects, everything. So you can't, it won't go too much, but it's hard to compare the two in terms of storytelling because, you know, and it's also fan feedback, right? Like that also has something to do with the way that things are written.
It has an influence for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But anyways.
Yeah. I was gonna say, are some Star Wars fans, are we so privileged to the point that because I feel like, so has there truly been, like with the series, before we get to that, let's just say, what is like your favorite of the movies for each saga?
Oof. Even though everybody would say episode 7 for the newest one, I still thought that 9 wasn't that bad. I know, I get it. I get it, man. I get it. I really do.
I said anything.
But no, but I know what's happening.
Hey, again, I'm not gonna be that Star Wars fan who's like, oh my god, dude, what is your problem? No, every single movie. I will say, episode 9 was a very high budgeted, shiny super high tier budget turd. So
Yes.
it looked great.
And that was good enough for me.
Everything in it, I was like, dang, look at all this. I don't know what it is, but look at all of it. It looks great. You know, that's how I felt. I will say, honestly, from my Star Wars nostalgia, like not trying to be mean to Star Wars point of view, it looked good. Like J.J. Abrams, really great at making, you know, stuff look great. So
it's kind of hard for me to pick one out of the sequel trilogy. I'm not going to lie, because I honestly really liked The Last Jedi. It's just that there was no uniformity between the three movies. That was the problem.
Yeah.
But I have to still pick The Force Awakens was the best. It was my favorite out of them. But
as it is most people.
I'm not going to sit here and judge you, Messiah, at all. Like, I would never. I shouldn't be here if I'm going to do that.
Exactly.
But
none of us should.
Like seeing all the like ghost Sith in the arena at the very end was like, holy crap! Like the power of evil, like the power of the Sith. This is bonkers. It's all here. The cinematography amazing. I mean, the audio visual effects awesome. The reason why it's my least favorite is just because Palpatine returning. I just think
the very first
it's
line
just not a good idea. I just don't think it's a good idea. Because I don't know. I won't elaborate on that too much because he was already a villain once. Like, why does he have to be a villain again?
I think them doing that single-handedly took the Skywalker saga and turned it into the Palpatine saga. Just
absolutely.
Because of that one movie, it took. So it's like, so you're telling me the chosen one, who's the chosen one? Not bad. I'm trying to explain it, right? I'm not mad. I'm just saying that like whole movie bringing back easily turned the whole story about the Skywalkers into the Palpatine story. So like this was his Infinity Saga, you know? He was Thanos somehow. So
it was keeping up with the Palpatines.
Yeah, seriously. But then but then it wasn't the Palpatines because Rey is just like, no, I'm a Skywalker. And
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Okay.
You're like, all right, so yesn't. Yeah, yesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll again look good. So I'm not gonna hate on it. I can't. I really can't. I don't want to hate on any Star Wars stuff. So
before Gary gives his favorite three out of the three, I just want to say that each one of those movies has amazing moments in it.
Yep. I agree.
I feel like everyone could agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think my theme of selecting is just like you said, T-Bone, where it's like finally the resolution. And I guess 6, 3, 6, 9, without shout outs to the Yin Yang twins, but
I was gonna say
but just having that resolution of the saga maybe amplifies it for me over 7. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. I can see that. I can definitely see that.
I can see that. Yeah. I feel like again, I still watch them, right? So when it comes to the prequels, I live in that like this was my childhood. So again, it was my childhood plus Star Wars, so it gets a boost. I know a lot of fans out there like to talk about how bad they are, but I still think it was the story, you could tell what the story was all the way through. It wasn't like, huh? What's going on? Like it was a whole full through story, right? So episode 3, I have to say, is my favorite. I like episode 1's fight. The Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan fight was great, but all together, like the whole thing, all around, episode 3 was the best to me. So I agree with you guys there. I have, growing up for the original trilogy, I have this weird thing. I don't know what it is. I blame my parents, where I saw things out of order. Like I remember I saw Terminator 3, then 2, then 1. I saw Jurassic Park 3, then 1, then 2. I've never seen Back to the Future, so I don't know. I saw so many things out of order. I remember I was at my brother-in-law's house and we were talking. I was like, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen episode 5. And he's like, which ones have you seen? I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. He's like, what? I was like, am I a Star Wars fan? I don't know. I've never seen so I've never saw episode 5 until like I was like 20 something, and then I finally watched the whole thing and I was like, why would I never see this movie? I don't get. So episode 5 to me is my favorite for the original trilogy, because I don't know, it's good, but it's something about like the enduring, like we were talking earlier, like enduring through the hard time. Like you don't give up. Like there's struggle, but like, you know, there's this feeling of they're not going to give up, even though they just got hit. Everyone got hit with the worst things that could be possibly happening.
Lando's betrayal.
Yes. Han, you know, Carbonite, Luke finding out who his daddy is, losing a hand. Like that's got to be, man, like, you're mental, right? Imagine like, hey, I'm your dad and I'm the one who's destroying everyone in the universe. I killed everything. I want to, you know, take over the galaxy. By the way, you know, and then like lose a hand. Yeah, like that's I don't know. And then, well, I guess when I think about it, you really see them endure all that through episode 6. So maybe right?
It's hard.
One of us.
Your list is hard.
I'm gonna go with episode 6 because I think about it. That's them actually persevering through all the toughness. Like they don't give up. That's the rebellion, right? Like the whole point of that is the rebellion, like the hope, the light side of the force, the good side never gives up. There always has to be balance. In episode 6, they balance the force. So episode 6, I just corrected myself. And the sequel trilogy, I got to go with the one I saw in theaters like 7 times, you know? And I mean 7 times, because I saw it with like a different group of people every time. And that was episode 7. I feel like it was the beginning of, look at this, all this potential, like so much setup, so much, look at everything, it's great. Oh, your favorite people are back again. Oh, and this guy Luke, he's back. What is he gonna do? We don't know, but he's here now. They're bringing him back, you know. So I'll go with also I feel like episode 7 was where we got the most out of Poe, and I really liked Poe in episode 7, so I'm gonna go with that one.
Man, it just makes me think like, and I love episode 7 too because of like Finn's character, but then I get sad because of how much they screwed his character.
They just neutered him.
Mm-hmm. Like seriously, they neutered him.
They absolutely neutered him. I remember everybody's like, after they get out of the theaters on episode 7, it's like, bro, did you see when he held the lightsaber, bro? Yep. Does he have the Force? Does he have this? And then just,
bro, Kylo Ren stared at him when he sensed them. He was staring at him at the beginning, and he sensed his betrayal already, because he's sensitive to the Force. He's a Force user. Yeah.
Let's I'll throw this in there. So just a brief touch on the future of Star Wars. There is going to be a movie. Well, there should be a movie coming out because there's been a bunch of ones that got scrapped already. Yep. Like Taika Waititi was going to have his own movie, but that got scrapped. There's going to be episode, I don't know if they're going to call it episode 10, but there will be another movie with Daisy Ridley's character, Rey.
Yes.
So maybe Finn will come back and maybe we get some resolution of that or some more like building onto the character.
Mm-hmm. This will be their episode 7 where they're like, oh, all these characters are coming back and they're kind of redeemed from their, you know, I don't know, because it's supposed to be like 15 years after episode 9. So like, he could be like training. I'm excited for that. Like, the future of Star Wars is looking really good.
Oh yeah, very bright.
For sure.
Yeah, the future is looking good. So yeah, 3, 6, 7, not 3, 6, 9 for me. So I'll have to say that. I guess I don't know. We could kind of move on to, because again we keep talking about like I feel like the good stories are the ones that are in between the movies, which they do really well in the form of TV shows. You know, their Star Wars TV shows like today have been just out of the park, but they also kind of like with the games, they've been doing it for so long. You know, there's been so many good Star Wars TV shows that have been going on since Star Wars has begun. So I kind of wanted to get your guys' thoughts on what do you think about like all the side story TV show stuff, whether it be cartoons or live action.
So I like what they're doing with the TV, and what I was telling Greedy prior to us hitting the record button here and starting it. So with the TV, I like how they're telling all the in-betweens, because who doesn't love knowing what happened on the other side? The galaxy is a huge place, right? And to understand what's happening, to finally be able to see like, oh, okay, so after Clone Wars and after Rebels, like what happened with Ahsoka, and like bam, you see her in this series and you're like, whoa, like what's going, like Ahsoka, and then next thing you know, like yeah, people really love that, and whether if it was because they really love that or that's the direction we're going, now she's getting her own show and you're like sweet, and then you see her in another show in the Book of Boba Fett and you're just like, oh my gosh, it's all coming together. And I think like the TV shows are doing a great job of that. And whether if they're taking a page out of Marvel's book, which, you know, I know that's a different podcast episode, but we have to acknowledge, I mean, there has to be some sort of, you know, there's some sort of rubric that they're getting from Marvel and what they're doing there. So I love the TV shows. And one thing I mentioned to Greedy is before this announcement of the movie, I had always been thinking to myself, you know what Marvel does differently than Star Wars? Star Wars is going to tell you all the stories in between, which are all great. You should absolutely love them. I said, but I would love for them to just tell the story moving forward. There has to be something else besides at the end of episode 9. Like, give me more years after episode 9 instead of telling me what happened between 3 and 4, 6 and 7, you know, all that other stuff. So the shows are doing a good job of that in between stories, but I'm looking forward to what's going to be the future of Star Wars. What is going to get us more excited about the new stuff, new characters, instead of just saying like, oh, yeah, I always wonder what Ahsoka was doing. Oh, I always wonder what was happening here and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think that The Mandalorian was a pitch and a throw and an absolute home run. And I love that they did it because I don't know too much about books when it comes to Star Wars, but to me, I don't know. Is he like an original character? I'm going to assume that he is. No, he's not.
No, he's totally original. Totally.
Yeah, original. And so to me, I love that because it's like you took you swung the bat and you swung to the fences and you happened to hit something, and now you have just this huge snowball effect that you can build off of it. So you know, as a fan, and not only as a fan, but you know, as like a production movie, as a franchise, whatever you want to call it, like, you know, you have the potential to do that, and I love it. So I'm excited for the shows, for the movies, everything. Super excited.
Yes, 100%, man.
Yeah, I think excitement is an understatement for me. I mean, this last Star Wars celebration, I was just ecstatic at everything that was coming out. I'll rewind a little bit. All the current shows, or like the shows that have come out in the past.
Yes.
I mean, Clone Wars is some of the best in between storytelling that it is. So yes. Okay. So I was talking to one of my friends that I met in my WoW guild, and he wanted to watch the Clone Wars. And I feel like his opinion was one of the more common opinion on Clone Wars. When you first start it, it feels very kid, G-rated, PG-rated. And I always need to tell people, like, you can put it on in the background. And I'm telling you, there will be a point in the 7 seasons where you're like, what did I just hear? Or what am I seeing right now? It has some of the craziest story arcs about the characters that we already know and love, like Yoda, the Chosen One arc, like the Mortis arc. I mean, season 7 is has my third favorite lightsaber battle of all time.
Yep. Yes.
It's one of the reasons why I love animation so much, is that they can focus more on the storytelling rather than focusing on the big budget and the cinematography and, you know, what have you. Mandalorian was a little mixture of both. It was amazing cinematography, great production. I mean, the whole volume thing that they use, I don't know if you guys watched that little mini documentary after the first season about like the room that's just like it's like a 360
stage.
Yeah, it's like a stage and then like a 360 screen around them, so they can just do like crazy creative things with all the shots and, you know, the landscaping and all that. But yeah, I mean, Clone Wars, I mean, Rebels is fantastic. And if you haven't watched Rebels, that Thrawn is in Rebels. I mean, Kanan Jarrus is an amazing character. so much good stuff in Rebels, and we're going to see some of the characters in Ahsoka. So I definitely would watch Rebels if you haven't.
Absolutely.
God, what else? What else is out there? I mean, there's like Resistance, which I haven't watched, which I heard was okay.
Yeah, I've also heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, well, maybe sometime I'll watch it. But Obi-Wan, I mean, the Obi-Wan show was pretty good. It had some crazy moments in it. What else is out there? What am I missing?
I will say, if it wasn't for those Clone Wars shows, some of the stuff that they even used in the live action stuff wouldn't be there. You know, like the Obi-Wan stuff. Like they got influence from their the spin-off stuff. So
yeah, I didn't even think about that. Damn. And that still all comes down to, for me, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni kind of spearheading all of this right now is, I feel like, why we're in such a good place with Star Wars.
Yes.
There's a lot of hate out there for Kathleen Kennedy. I don't hate her. I have my opinions, but you know, she controls it. It is what it is. But yeah. I mean, I just think Favreau and Filoni, like, there were memes going around when The Mandalorian first came out, and it was just like people just like bowing down to Filoni, and it's just him wearing his cowboy hat, make him look like he's descending from the heavens. And I'm
worship your cowboy hat wearing overlord.
So yeah, I mean, it's all of the series, I think, are extremely worth the watch. If you haven't, Clone Wars is long, Rebels is long, totally worth it. And I also have to say, with like the Clone Wars, especially with Anakin's character and like his development throughout the Clone Wars, I feel like for some reason helped. Like when Hayden Christensen first appeared in Attack of the Clones, people hated him for some reason.
Yeah.
And I have no idea why. But I feel like with his, like, Anakin's, like, with his character being developed, for some reason, even though it's not Hayden Christensen voicing him over in the Clone Wars, made people appreciate him more. And now people love him. And he was like crying at Star Wars Celebration. And I was just like, dude, this is making me cry. I just stop. Come on. Tugging at my heartstrings. But anyways, a little bit of a tangent, but
no, it's all good, man. Yeah, you're right there. Like, unjustifiably like hated. Everyone in Star Wars who got the hate, there was no reason for it. Like, it's like we have to have a figure of all our frustration and anger. So let's use, the little kid from the episode 1, I forgot his name, Jake Lloyd. Let's use him, and then let's use adult Anakin. But if you are a true Star Wars fan, you could see like the strings and the parts of Anakin from the live action also in the Clone Wars show. Like, they're kind of the same character. Like, he's kind of like dry humorish, kind of, going through, like, he's a person who is told he can't show emotions, but needs an outlet to do that because it's wrong, because it's against the Jedi code, which, I don't know how they got there, because when you look at the Old Republic stuff, there was nothing like that. But anyways, that's a side tangent too. But that's why they failed, Star Wars is a great story essay on I forgot who I told. It's a great essay on the checks or the separation of church and state. Because when you mix those two together, you you really that's how we get Star Wars, because that's what happens.
That's how you get Crusades. Yeah.
That's how you get Crusades.
I mean, when you ask, like, what do we think of Star Wars? I said it's my religion. I mean, the Jedi Order is kind of a religion.
They are.
I mean,
they are.
There's so many parallels in Star Wars, and that's a great one.
Yes. 100%. And I have to say, speaking of one of the great ones, I don't want to, get too crazy into, like, because we can have this conversation forever, but I believe one of the greatest creations that we've gotten from Star Wars, in my opinion, is the creation of Rogue One, which led into the best creation in my mind, which is Andor, the live action show about which I also was.
How did I forget about Andor?
Yeah, well, for me, I would say I've been listening to podcasts about people talk about it for a while, so it's been in my mind for a bit, But like that time period, like we're talking about between episode 3 and 4, for me, I was like, man, that's what they always do stuff between this. Like, why can't we get more? Which we did with The Mandalorian and Boba Fett and Ahsoka, you know, coming up. But like something about that, like if it wasn't for, my mind was like, if it wasn't for these people, like the rebellion wouldn't have happened and we wouldn't be where we are today. So I would love to see the story. Like Andor is part of the reason why we're able to get past the Empire and like help them like lead to their destruction. So it's super interesting how they did it. And it almost feels like, I don't know if you guys think this, but if you take Andor away and didn't call it Andor or just called it, you know, some like, let's say James Bond, it's still a great, like it feels like it's some crazy story that doesn't, like with a Star Wars tag on it, that just makes it even more amazing, you know? Like it just feels like there's Star Wars stuff going on in the background, but it's not, it doesn't need to be Star Wars, which is why I think it's one of the greatest pieces of Star Wars media. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but
I mean, I definitely agree with you, and it's just it's the darker, nitty gritty side of Star Wars that we haven't really seen before.
Yes,
and there's no force using, there's no lightsabers. It's just, it's like, and it has one of the greatest Star Wars monologues that I've ever heard of all time. I mean, I don't know if it's the second to last episode.
Episode
Luthen's monologue is
like literally chills, bro. I had chills listening to that monologue.
I'll let you go ahead, Masaya. I'll let you go ahead.
So I love. Okay, so you're talking about Andor, the show. I loved the movie. In my opinion, and whether hate or non-hate, to me, it's like easily top 2 Star Wars movie. Yes. And because I love it, because kind of what it shares with Andor is that it's like you said, T-Bone, it's the nitty gritty, non-force using normal Joe, gotta pick up a blaster rifle, gotta get in there and plant some bombs. You can't just get into an X-Wing and, you know, feel it out and just shoot some friggin' bombs inside of a Death Star. Like, you gotta have sacrifice, you gotta have heart, you gotta have loss of friendships and love and all this stuff, and you gotta have all of that, and you encompass it into a movie, and just all of that. And then the cherry on top was making me remember why Darth Vader is like top 5 villain easily, hands down, in any kind of franchise.
Yes.
Like when I saw him return in that last scene where you're getting ready to kick off where episode 4 starts, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like I know why he is the bad guy now. Right, whether if they did him dirty by making him big and slow, you know, in the original trilogy, like you get to see him going crazy there on that movie, and then even more we got a treat, which was, you know, the Obi-Wan series. But yeah, Andor, Andor, and not only Andor but Rogue One, just being able to be that nitty gritty, non-force using series that it's like we don't need a lightsaber technically, right, because it came out at the end, but we don't need a lightsaber to be a good movie.
Yeah,
we don't need the 4. It was just
that show,
so good.
Like we talked about it too, that show is the peak of showing you what it takes to hope, what it takes to like get to like actually, like it's almost like I would rather die for my cause than die for your suffering, you know, like you like they put so much into like making Cassian finally believe into this dream, you know? And I don't know. I really don't know what else to say. The show, it's just amazing. And like the storytelling, like you said, that when that monologue he gave to the guy, I feel like I was like, well, damn, how do I sign up for the
I was like,
sign me up.
I'm like, where's Saw Gerrera at, dude? Like I'm on board, bro. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
And again, one of the greatest follow-ups to a spin-off movie, a side story movie, one of the greatest follow-ups to that, which was the show, which is one of the best pieces, I will say, for Star Wars content. Yeah. So
just real quick, I don't know if you're gearing to say something, T-Bone, but just you mentioned something greedy, and it was like, this is how you think of rebellion and like the resistance, right? And you're like, Oh yeah, you see them when they're formed. And even when they're formed, they're kind of on the smaller end compared to the Empire, obviously, because it's an empire. But this is like, hey man, like we want to build a car and we need all these pieces in order to make like an automobile. Like, where do we start? And where do we start is like what you're seeing in Andor and especially like in Rogue One, where it's just like, I mean, there's kind of a rebellion, but not really. And things are working in the background. Like we're trying to just, we're trying to slash the tires of the Empire on one of their 100 vehicles, right? And to be like, haha, like this is what we did to you. Like we're doing that. But like, that's how it starts. It starts from nothing, and it starts from like people having a voice against the Empire, and slowly and little by little you see it coming together just in little small pieces of that show, and it just gives you chills because it's like, this is how a rebellion starts. Small, don't want to speak up, you're gonna get killed, your loved ones are gonna get interrogated, like everything is gonna happen, but it's like for the greater cause. And it's like, oh, like it puts that in you, man.
I'll just say too, it also is not just the rebellion. You also see how the Empire became, how they became, because they started off like, oh, like we're the Empire, but we need some, we got to get some third party. We need some rent-a-cops in here, to do some jobs. We're not everywhere yet, We're not everywhere. Yeah, they got the, what is it, the ISB, right? We can't be everywhere yet. And like, what was it? There was a line that he said that made me think like, yeah, this is also like a little origin story for the Empire too. Cause like, I think it was Luthen. He said, the Empire's been choking us so slowly. We haven't even started noticing yet. And I was like, God damn, that's how it is. That's how it began. Everyone like, oh man, Andy Serkis's character, right? One way out. Like that right there.
It makes you want to like get imprisoned with them just so that you can get out, right? So you can get out.
Like they showed the slow process of him. Like people still believed in the Empire, which is crazy to think about because we've seen like just how the Empire is this crazy force that'll blow up a planet because you didn't want to give them the answer they wanted. So seeing people like, oh no, I'm just gonna serve my sentence, and like and that hope slowly turn around and be like, oh, I realize the Empire is not exactly what we thought it was going to be. So something needs to happen. And everyone has that. Everyone who started off that way, besides the people who are like hardcore, like you could see that turn in them, like just kind of be like, oh, we just deal with it. It's not that bad, to be like, oh no, something needs to be done. Like everyone has a switch like flipped inside of them, and they decide to choose whether to stay with it or go with it. But there's no more, like the show is showing, there's no more in between, just kind of lingering in the middle of like, nah, I don't really care, but they are kind of bad. Like everyone has to choose a side. So that's the one thing about the show too. That's like, they make you like decide. Everyone around Andor, at least, because he makes everyone choose. He makes everyone choose. Yeah.
That show literally, like, I mean, all of Star Wars has amazing parallels to the real world.
Yes.
But I do think Andor has some of the best showcases of those parallels. Battling oppression from, a pretty much dictatorship or, I can't even think of the other term.
It's just like,
and the other thing that it's literally like a galactic. It's worse than the police, man. Yeah. It's worse than that.
True.
And the other thing, I don't know why I didn't think about this until the very end of the show, but like when you finally realize that they've literally just been making like these connective parts for the Death Star the entire time, you're like, this is messed up. Holy.
Like even if you hate the Empire, you're still servicing them in a way. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this entire time of trying to do Mario Kart time trials when it comes to building Death Star parts. It's like you were competing against everybody around you, and it was for what? Like to build this giant planet destroyer. You know what I mean? Like it's so crazy.
Again, that's like the quote, like, I'd rather die for my cause than die to help them achieve whatever they're going to do. Like, I'd rather die trying to escape this prison than die helping them, do whatever they're doing. Because that's what they're like. And no one knew. Like, they started. Oh, man. It's whoo.
Yeah. Andor, I think Andor and Rogue One have some of the best displays of like heroism and sacrifice out
Yes.
of pretty much all of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'll just throw it out there. Like, Rogue One is my favorite. Well, no, Rogue One is my second favorite movie
Okay. All right.
of all time. I think it's so good. It's so good. Especially, I love the Mickelson brothers, and now we got the other Mickelson brother playing Thrawn.
Ooh.
It's gonna be good.
It's gonna be real good, man.
Again, people out there, if you like, I don't know who's gonna listen to this, but like, you can see, like, we're really into Star Wars, but Star Wars isn't just like some great, crazy, like, oh, giant nerd story thing. Like, there's so much in-depth stuff in there that you could probably take away and like apply it to your own life. And, you know, it's crazy because Star Wars does that. It's not just a great, you know, space odyssey, like I said at the beginning, but there's so much in there that you could, again, use in your own life or even see parallels in there. So, you know, if you're not a Star Wars fan now, maybe, you know, I think it might be time. I don't know.
It might be time.
It might be time. There's never a wrong time.
Yeah.
I just want to throw out this too, and this like finish it off for me for the series, like the shows. My thoughts on them. All of the shows have literally made me change who my favorite protagonist and antagonist in all of Star Wars are. Like, Ahsoka is my favorite protagonist now, and Thrawn is my favorite antagonist.
Dang.
And it's just crazy that the shows have done that to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why wouldn't it be Darth Vader? Why wouldn't it be Luke Skywalker? You know what I mean? But I didn't even know Ahsoka had a Padawan until the Clone Wars, right? Like, it's and just like learning her story and seeing her character development and thinking about Anakin's character development simultaneously is just insane. I can't wait till the show.
Yeah. That when does that
August
come out again?
Come soon enough.
August. That's right.
August.
By the way, I didn't say it at the beginning, but you know, my friend, homie Aaron T-Bone, he has his own podcast. You need to go listen to it called KYBER Culture. Like, they've been in the Star Wars like lore universe for so long. They talk about it all the time. That's like the go-to. We're just here to have like, we're celebrating it, but they're like they got it down. So I would say definitely go check them out. So
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I forgot to say it at the beginning. I had to say it now. So yeah. Masaya, you got anything or you
No, I'm good, man. I'm
good?
I'm enjoying this. Yeah. Unless you want me to bring out a question,
I mean, if you want to, yeah, go for it. Because I feel like, you know, I didn't want to just, go for it. You got it, man.
So, like, I guess one of the things, I mean, we're already like pretty optimistic, and especially when we love the series, like we can see that hopefully it's gonna become this great direction as far as where it's gonna go. But like, so I won't ask that question, but like, what about your dislikes with the series as a whole? There's got to be something that you saw and you were just like, I don't like what they did. I don't like the direction they did here. Or, you know, something that you could have changed. So, you know, maybe something to talk about like that.
Unfortunately for me, I have a hard time not thinking of things in a negative way. Sometimes, you know, my first thought is initially negative, but I could get rid of it. So I'll just start off at the top by saying Star Wars, again, great, really great. So I can't really think of things that are like horrible, wrong, you know, besides like, oh, it's just a testament of the times, you know, like the prequels, like, you know, of course they were figuring out CGI and all that stuff, but they were still ahead of everyone else's time. So there's some stuff in there that's a little bland or emotionless because, you know, they're trying to figure out how to mix humans and CGI stuff. So I guess that's for me on that level. The only thing, which I don't think it's Star Wars' fault exactly, would be the one show, Boba Fett, right? Boba Fett.
Yeah. You mean the Mandalorian season 2.5?
Mandalorian 2.5. Yep.
2.5. See, there we go. Everyone knows it, right? It's like, of course, you know, they could have done something different with the story instead of going the Last Samurai route, but it just feels like, because Boba Fett's such a, you know, the bounty hunter Boba Fett, for people who don't know, he's a bounty hunter who made his first appearance, I think, in episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, as pretty much like a side background character who's the one that kind of captures our heroes. And then they made this whole lore off of him in the books and everything. Like, they made a lore. We know his backstory, you know, how he grew up. And now we needed to know what happened after episode 6.
The pit.
The pit, yeah, when he fell into the Sarlacc. So they made a show after The Mandalorian, because he's also a Mandalorian. They made a show after the second season of The Mandalorian about him. And I just feel like because he had such a mystery to him, there's no way you're going to make everyone happy. You know, when you answer a question of a mystery of people have been wondering, their mind is going to be so much more colorful than what you could actually paint for everyone. But that being said, it was not what I expected, I will say. I did have an idea in my head, and it didn't even land anywhere near it. And it's really sad, but still, again, I didn't hate the show, but it's really sad when a show called Boba Fett, I only get excited and start paying attention more when I hear the theme song for The Mandalorian in the background or something. And I'm like, Mando's here, but it's like, wait, this is Boba Fett show though, right? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So I think that's like, for me, it's not really Star Wars, oh, this sucks. It's more like, oh, well, you know, again, like the prequels here, or the storytelling here just wasn't, it's an interesting direction, but yeah. That's my
side. Yeah, no, I agree with you when it comes to that, because I remember telling everybody there at my work, like, if they had just gone with the direction of sticking to Boba Fett and maybe like sprinkling in some, this is why his role in this area at this time is important to the grander scheme of things when it comes to the other characters that they're starting to develop. Mm-hmm. I think I would have been okay with that. Give me more Boba Fett in a show called Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett, right? I say this all the time at work. You know, unfortunately, I think Grogu puts the star in Star Wars right now. And I think like they kind of just like pumped him in along with the Mandalorian into this show. And to me, overall, was it good? Like, was it something that I'm looking at and being like, oh my God, that's why I can't love this series because they did this? Like, no, absolutely not. Like, it served its purpose. But would I have loved to have seen more Boba Fett? Yes. And that's where we had the laughing at the very beginning. That's, you know, oh, you mean Mandalorian season 2.5, like, or, you know, like 2 Reloaded or whatever it is, bro. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, they definitely could have done a better job there. I agree.
Yeah. I personally think the idea of fleshing Boba Fett's character out more and explaining his story after he fell into the Sarlacc pit, I don't think anybody was really expecting that he lived the Sarlacc pit in the first place.
Yep. Yeah.
So the fact that he survived it doesn't surprise me, and I'm not mad at that at all. I loved his whole journey with the Tuskens. I think that was awesome because, especially when you're talking about the Tuskens, they were painted as like these savages and
barbaric.
These villains, and then with the Mandalorian and him being able to like actually speak their language, and then Book of Boba Fett coming out and actually showing respect for their culture and their ways and all that. I thought that was awesome. Mm-hmm. But there are like so many tiny things in the series too, because the Book of Boba Fett is one of my negatives in terms of Star Wars.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell already. But the whole like the motorbike scene towards the end of the like that was just terrible. And I don't know. I don't think sticking the Mandalorian in there was a bad idea, but they just didn't do enough with Boba to make it warranted, you know? Yeah. I love Fennec Shand. I think having Fennec Shand in there is awesome. Yep. I just love bounty hunter stuff in general. I think if they do more like bounty hunter series, that'd be awesome. Like in Clone Wars, we had freaking the box series where you had like all the bounty hunters and Obi-Wan's undercover as a bounty hunter. Like it's just cool stuff to me.
Yeah.
Bounty hunters, Cad Bane, better, more.
Yeah. As somebody who is currently watching Bad Batch and very early, because I had avoided it. I just never got to it. Seeing Cad Bane and, you know, all these other characters like Fennec, they're coming into the limelight, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right, these guys.
It's just it just felt like
I missed Bad Batch. Bad Batch is amazing.
I haven't seen it at all.
Far.
I haven't seen it at all, but I know.
I won't say anything. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's good.
I just feel like they didn't trust that Boba Fett could carry a show, so they had to add everything. That's what it seemed like. The story that they were telling for Boba Fett, they didn't think they could trust it, so they're like, we gotta throw in Cad Bane, and then we gotta throw in a Rancor, and also the Mandalorian and the Darksaber.
Sprinkle in some Mandalorian,
yeah. Like it felt like it was everyone else's show more than it was him. Like he was barely in his own show. And again, the beginning part with the Tuskens was great, but it also felt like it was great. I didn't hate it, but it's like, oh well, we know where this is going. They're all gonna die, and he's gonna get revenge. All the native people that teach the person their ways, they all die, and then he has to go and fight for their honor. You know. So
what's Anakin's line when he kills them?
I slaughtered them all like animals. I hate them. I remember.
That's essentially what happened again. So. My gosh. Yeah, for me, I think it's the newest trilogy. We talked about it earlier with the neutering of Finn and that character, and like you said, Greedy, not enough Oscar Isaac Poe. To me it's that. Like I just think, and something you mentioned, T-Bone, where it's like when you have a writer who can flesh out the story himself and it's all in his mind, he knows the direction he wants to go. I just saw Guardians. I didn't just see it. I saw Guardians of the Galaxy the day it came out, and I was watching TikToks afterwards, and they were like, well, it's because James Gunn didn't want the movie to go like this. But then when they were making Endgame and Infinity War and they killed off Gamora, like, he's like, why are you killing my characters off? Like, I wanted to, like, this is not part of the original story. Like, why are you doing this to me? And I think, like, when it came to Star Wars, when you have all these different directors and different directions that you want to go, it unfortunately leaves things like, it gives an opportunity for people like us to be like, yeah, they just didn't do anything with that character though. And that's such a shame. Like they had so much potential, or they set up, or they did this, or they were creating like how, Ben Solo was going to be the next Darth Vader. And then no, he was just all up in his feelings and he's an emotional wreck. And it's just like, they had a lot of potential. And I just am slightly sad that they didn't like utilize and capitalize on all that they had already built up, and just went too many different directions. So my biggest gripe about the Star Wars is, yes, the newest saga.
Yeah. And honestly, they pretty much regurgitated Luke Skywalker's story. All they did was put a female as the lead role.
True.
Like that's why it felt new and fresh. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I love that there was a female as the lead role. But like you think about, Mark Hamill literally said this. He was like, oh, an orphan person in the desert, like the script is pretty much the same. And you're like, come on.
He's right.
Like he's right. And it's like, you guys have like so much power to do something more creative with the amount of money that you have, and the amount of time that you have. Like, I'm not the person out here saying, I need more Star Wars and I need it now for a bad product or quantity over quality. I'll wait 5 years for a freaking amazing Star Wars movie or trilogy or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
Make it good.
Because I still got plenty of other things to do. Read some comic books, read some books. There's plenty of content out there. But I will agree with you on that second part. I mean, that's the only other negative that I have about any of Star Wars is that hasn't changed until now, is I don't think that they listen to the fan base enough, like in the sense, like Phantom Menace towards like pretty much the sequel trilogy.
Yes.
I don't think they listen to the fans enough. Like I feel like there's overwhelming consensus on a lot of things that Star Wars should be doing amongst the fandom that they just don't do. And I think that's their biggest downfall. Having said that, I think the direction where we're going now is exactly where we need to be going.
Yeah.
So the negatives turn it into a positive. It's hard to be negative. It's like you said, Gary. Like it's hard.
It's hard because again, I love Star Wars, but yeah, they kind of had a little Nintendo streak in there where they're like, we're gonna do our thing and you're gonna like it. It's like, well, actually, actually we don't like this, but it can only being Star Wars can only get you so far until the fans are like, why are you doing everything that we literally don't like? Or why are you copy pasting if you think about it, episode 1, 4, and 7 are all the same. Young boy gets mentor, goes on a space venture, blows up a giant space station, and loses his mentor in a fight to the death. So they're all the same.
Exactly. And if you even think about it too, I mean, the beginning of episode 4 is the same as freaking the beginning of Harry Potter.
Yeah. Yes. Yep, I've seen those.
You've seen that?
Yes.
It's so true. Like, how do we not see these things? Like we continually consume them and we're like, hold on. We got to like step back and like be a little bit more critical, but like constructively critical.
Of course.
Not hate, but like more like, hey, I see you're doing the same thing. Because again, it feels like for the when it comes to the movies, it's like they don't trust that the fans will come to see it if it's not exactly the same as Star Wars. But making it exactly the same in like the structure of the story, but then changing characters and making them do something different is like, that's all they do. They just say, oh, it's exactly the same story, but instead of, Luke or Anakin, it's Rey, and then you got, the smuggler person, and you got the cool pilot. At least we got to see someone who's like Wedge. That's why I like Poe, because he's pretty much the Wedge Antilles of the sequels. But I feel like they just were like too scared. Like, oh, we don't know if the fans will like it because it's different. No, fans want.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Or
but it broke. If you want to do it from the time it came out, it broke with the prequels. When the prequels actually came out, that's when it broke, because people were like, oh, this is, so they should have changed it up, but they didn't. Not saying the prequels were bad, but they were not well received when they first came out. So
no, and especially the actors, like you said, like Ahmad Best playing Jar Jar, who got his redemption in freaking
goodness, man.
The I was so happy for him. Holy,
it's the one more thing. Their portrayal of Jar Jar Binks is horrible. So yeah, there we go. That's my other negative. He didn't do anything wrong. They just made him like the butt of every joke. So yeah. Even
I had a Jar Jar Binks toy.
Yeah.
It's excessive comedic relief.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, excessive.
Even in the Clone Wars, the cartoon, like there are episodes where like Jar Jar's like, oh, he's the general of this army with the clone troopers, and he accidentally killed a bunch of them. Oh, Jar Jar is like, God, why do they? Oh man,
oh Jar Jar, yeah.
You silly Gungan,
episodes.
You silly Gungan. Not again, taking out fleets of droids. Yeah.
So.
We all know the comedic relief needs to be droids, and that's it.
Yes,
droids are the relief.
We could have gotten to get into the backstory of how Jar Jar just let Palpatine have power over Coruscant or something. Like we could have got into that. We could have had that.
Or how he's actually a Sith Lord.
Yeah. Oh, that's the theory, right? He's the Sith Lord. Misa Sith Lord. Yes.
Misa Sith Lord. Misa Sith Lord all along.
Misa tell you the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Yeah.
Which is also me.
But I'll say, so on this point, a podcast I heard so long ago, when I think episode 8 came out, they told this story about how, now imagine, right? So you're going on a cruise, and the captain is like, hey everyone, it's me, Captain Abrams. I'm gonna take you on this cruise today. We're gonna be going on a cruise for 3 days. The first day we're gonna have a shuffleboard, disco night, and bingo. And on the second day we're gonna have another disco night, shuffleboard, and basketball game. And halfway through the cruise, part of the way through on the second day, it's like, hey, Captain Abrams disappeared. Sorry, everyone. He's not here anymore. Me, Captain Johnson, I'm in charge of the boat. Now, there's no more disco, and we're not going to play basketball. Bigo Night's still happening, but we're not playing basketball anymore, so I'll be in charge, and I'll get you through the rest of the cruise. And then the next day, they're like, hey, wow, we found Captain Abrams again. He's back. Remember that shuffleboard night we didn't have? We're going to have it tonight. Because we didn't have it the second night. We're bringing it back. And I decided to add this new game. We're going to be playing Uno also. So,
pickleball.
That's what the sequel is pretty much. Like a cruise where the captain changes and it keeps telling you all the stuff that you're going to do is not happening and it is happening and it is happening and not happening again. So that's pretty much how they explained it. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah,
that's very true.
All the participants are just like on this emotional roller coaster of being excited and then let down and then excited and then let down. And everyone's like, why did I even go on this cruise?
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm on a boat and there's no land anywhere, so I'm here regardless.
I've always wanted to tell that story to someone. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, since we are again, it's a little long. I had one more thing I wanted to get into a little bit to see, your guys' opinion, but something, again, we all like Star Wars. Star Wars is great. The story is great. The spin-offs, the stuff they do with it is great. But I feel like there's one piece of Star Wars that if it wasn't for this, would it be as like crazy amazing as it is? And that to me is soundtrack. The Star Wars music. Like, like Star Wars, some of the Star Wars music really, like, that's part of the stuff that really sticks with you a lot. Like, that's for me, because again, like I said, I make music, and I feel like music is a part of me and part of my soul. Like, hearing Star Wars stuff, like, I could get emotional just listening to a song, Like, I could feel myself, like, I remember when I heard this 12 years ago, and I was, at 6 a.m. in the morning waking up, or, something like that. Like, how is the music for you guys?
I'll let you go ahead, Masaya. Okay, I gotta gather my emotions real quick.
So, I am a huge music nerd. Like, I am, by a huge music nerd, this is what I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So I knew The Planets, right? The Planets, which is a composition piece by Gustav Holst. Mm-hmm. You don't need to know that, but I mentioned it anyways. And he has this arrangement of all the planets. They all have their own theme. They all have their own piece, and it's supposed to signify like this is the emotion of the planet. This is what Mars is. This is what Venus is. This is what Uranus is. This is Uranus, whatever. So this is what all of those planets are. So I remember hearing a long time ago, right, that the Star Wars composer John Williams, he got his inspiration from Gustav Holst. I was all like, what? So I go and I listen to the planets, and I was just like, let me see. So I'm listening to Mars, bro. If I didn't tell you I was listening to Gustav Holst and I just played you a certain portion of that song, you would think that it's a Star Wars soundtrack.
Like Twin Suns.
Exactly. And I'm just getting like my mind blown. And so like I was like, you know what? Let me start digging into the music. On Spotify, they have this playlist that has all the Star Wars music, every single soundtrack. You think of the classics like Anakin and Padme's little love theme that they have. Like, that's just amazingly, just it tugs on the emotions. Like, you have to listen to it, obviously. And then one thing I noticed is that in the movie, right, they have the credits song where they roll out the credits, and they kind of play like bits and pieces of every major significant song that happened in the actual film. Episode 1 will have all these like Gungan theme, and then it has like the Duel of Fates for like a minute, and then it goes into something else for like another 30 seconds. I remember I was listening to that song, and I'm listening, and I'm just there like thinking to myself, okay, yeah, this is from the Duel of Fates, this is from there, okay, yeah, and this is from there. Okay, and I'm listening, and then I just hear, like, for 10 seconds, it's like Anakin's theme, because that's where you first get introduced to Anakin, so they have to play his theme.
Yes.
But then when they play it again, after they play his theme, it's like done in a minor key, which again, I'm a music nerd, majors and minors. Just think minor is like a darker key. So now they're no longer playing him in a major key where it sounds all bright and I'm just a little kid. It's like, no, now they're playing it in a minor key, almost like it's foreshadowing something that's going to happen. And like, I listen to those things and it's like, how do these people think? Like to incorporate music in a sense that it's going to just make you like already start to foreshadow what's going to be happening in the future of this entire series. Why are they doing that with Anakin? You know, they could have done it with anybody else, but it's like, it's Anakin's theme, bright, happy little kid into, hey, there's a little bit of, you know, dissonance. Confusion. Yeah, dissonance in there. And it's like, that goes to show you, I always have this conversation with everybody and then I'll stop. When you think of like compositions, right? You think of, you know, like the classicals, you think of like the Mozarts, the Beethovens, the Vivaldis, the all that other stuff, the Bachs, all that stuff. And then when you think of like modern, it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know, Hans Zimmer. I mean, he's got some good stuff. And to me, like, yeah, him too.
Cicchino.
And then it goes to like me, and I think like John Williams. Like everything he's done in Star Wars, like he's on like the Mozart, the Beethoven like scale for me. Like I know that's a big word to say, but it's like the amount of like just emotion and tying it to a character and it not just being about the character, but just how it will progress into their theme. I mean, you can even hear Leia's theme in the most recent trilogy. So it's like, it still has meaning and music, and I love what he's done. I love what he's always done. I don't know if he's going to be making music anymore because I think he's still alive. But
he's kicking.
I don't. Yeah, he's kicking.
He performs in LA.
But the music is just, it's amazing. It's honestly just amazing. It does the perfect job of just portraying all the emotion that you need, whether happy, whether sad, whether upset. Like you hear it in the music. That's amazing. I love it.
You couldn't like you were just like talking right now, and I was literally going like in my mind.
That's what I said.
Some of the most emotional parts of Star Wars, and like just thinking about the music behind it, because they're like, without the music, I mean, it's just not Star Wars. I'm sorry. Like the first one that comes to mind is actually Clone Wars season 7, Burying the Dead. I mean, just one note on a piano never hits so hard, and you're just looking at Ahsoka, seeing her fallen clones who just turned on her, and it makes me cry, man. Music invokes so much emotion. Just in general, like not even in.
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
What was that? Were you listening to Burying the Dead?
Yeah.
It's amazing. And there's a quote I heard. I don't know who said it, but like, music is the soul of the universe, and like, I will always hold that to my heart because I agree with it, and especially orchestral pieces like even Game of Thrones. Like when I was like a gym fanatic, I had Game of Thrones on, like just like I swear, like I could lift harder, I could last longer in the gym. Like, I don't know, music has that power over you. And John Williams, is easily like my favorite modern day composer, maestro. It's bar none, hands down.
He's like the Beatles.
Like, I can't hear
posing.
Yeah, I can't hear Twin Sons and not just picture like Luke on that little mound outside of the hut on Tatooine, looking out into the horizon. Music drives the whole thing. I mean, Duel of the Fates, the crazy thing about Duel of the Fates, if you watch a couple of interviews, I feel like if they didn't make that song the way they made it and call it what they called it, the impact of what that scene actually meant for the Star Wars universe wouldn't exist because it was like, okay, someone's dying here. And I also think about it as a double entendre, duel as in like a showdown and duel as in two. Yeah. Obi-Wan versus Qui-Gon. Whoever lives that fight, that's Anakin's fate. Like
pretty much.
That's pretty much what it is. And it's like, it's too good. And then like Imperial March, I mean, you hear that. There's chills. No way you don't hear Darth Vader breathing. Like it just,
man,
is so impactful. Music is so impactful, and especially in Star Wars. Like I said, if the music isn't there or the music's not good, it ain't Star Wars. But I could go on forever about it. But
I wish we could. I would love to go on forever because I could just talk about Star Wars forever and not have to worry about anything else. Bro, I would. But
life would be made.
It would be. It would be, and that's again. It feels like, so again, music speaks to the soul. And John Williams said, I'm going to make sure this speaks to everyone's soul and it's going to resonate with everyone. That's what it feels like. Every single piece of music he crafted and orchestrated or composed, it feels like it reaches to inside of someone and they're like, you're going to feel whatever I want you to feel right now, you know? And like Duel of Fates, that song, one of the best ones, obviously, but like, it sticks with me. It really does stick with me. And it is, again, music is a way of expression and it does express even the titles too. Like Duel of Fates, like you said, if they didn't title that, like I wouldn't probably even think the way I'm thinking about it right now and how much it like, oh, I see it because the outcome, we all know the outcome because the one that survives wasn't exactly the one that we needed to get to the good outcome, but it's the one that we got. So, you know, here we are, but I really don't know how to go into it any deeper than like Masaya said, because like, I make music, but like, I'm like, I don't know how to make music that touches people's souls like this. Like this is like on a whole different level. And it's a combination of the actual story and the actual structure and seeing things mixed with the music that makes this perfect, you know, balance of what Star Wars is to us. Like Star Wars.
I feel like with music, Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going on. I don't know where I was going. I was like, I'll find something to say.
Too emotional, man.
I feel like with music, especially at this level, it has to tell a story. Just on the music alone. Like the music should also be just as important as the movie. Yes. Like honestly, like when you think about it, like it has to be scripted to not only just aid the visuals that you're seeing, but on its own, us being able to close our eyes and listen to a soundtrack. And like you said, T-Bone, I can see Luke standing here. I can hear Darth Vader breathing. I can imagine the duel that is happening between Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan. Just from the music alone, you can already start to associate it with the images of the cinema that you have seen. And that's what music has to do. And at the highest level, like that is what it does. And like, it's so beautiful to be able to like see all this music or see all these music that Greedy is pulling up right now. But it's like hearing it and knowing that like so much emotion, and not only the emotion, but just it being its own movie.
Yes.
If that makes any sense. The music is its own movie.
Yep.
And it's like even the sequel trilogy, like Rey's theme. I can't picture her like sliding down the giant sand hill.
Dune,
It's just so well done. And I gotta throw this out there too. If you guys don't know who Samuel Kim is, he does some of the dopest, like, not remix, but he kind of like makes these orchestral pieces even more epic. He does it for everything. He does it for Star Wars. He does it for like Indiana Jones. I mean, I feel like he understands exactly what we're saying, especially about orchestral pieces in movies. And he just makes it like even more emotional. Like he does the Clone Wars music. I just got to throw that out there and recommend it if you ever are interested in looking at it or listening to it. But yeah, I mean, those are honestly kind of the two things that have helped me survive in life is music and Star Wars, and then you
Yes.
combine those two things,
Oh,
we're living forever.
we living, boys. We living. Oh man, you couldn't have said it. Like truly, like music again speaks to the soul, makes me emotional, brings me back. It also gives me hope. It makes me feel something. I feel like, and especially like nowadays, for me personally, I feel like it's hard for me to express myself in the way I truly want to, what's inside of me. So music, I listen to it and I feel the expression that I want to do. And when I make music, I express it in I feel like I'm able to emotionally invest and make it in the way that I wish I could actually say out loud or be out loud. But music does that for me, you know? So, and when it comes to Star Wars, and I know we're not talking about it right now, but for me personally, Star Wars and Lord of the Rings music, just, they make me feel a certain type
Top
of way.
tier.
Yeah.
Top tier.
Harry Potter too. All the, and you think about it. All these nerdy things are the ones with the soundtracks that are so just like, really crazy.
And even because Ramin Djawadi did Game of Thrones, but he also did freaking Westworld, and that music is just crazy.
Yes.
Like, it's so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was having this conversation with somebody, and they were like, anime typically has some good music, and like they were talking about like all the gosh, what are they called? The Studio Ghibli films. They were talking about all the music. Yeah. And they were talking about all those movies and all the music. And they had just recently rewatched Howl's Moving Castle. And we started talking about like, well, what about like here, like in the West? Like who's holding the water here, like for as far as like good like compositions, as far as movies, as far as cinema shows and all that stuff. And some person who's not a huge Star Wars fan, he's like John Williams, like from Star Wars. And I was just like, you know what? You're right. I pulled out my phone and we started listening to all like the Star Wars music, and we were just going crazy. But I was just like, yeah, okay, that's good. Like, I'm glad he's in that conversation with like the people over here in our time in the West, this part of the world, where it's just like, what are the composers? What are the people making the music that you want to listen to? And he's one of them.
That's crazy. And we'll throw Alan Silvestri in there too. I mean, come on, we can't forget about,
exactly.
About Marvel.
Of course.
That's true.
Bum, bum,
this guy's playing for the Mandalorian OST.
I will have to say, we can't, honorable mention to the
which is also
who's coming up right now. I mean, not coming up, he's been around, but Ludwig Göransson, man. Ludwig, he's killing it, man. He did the Black Panther soundtrack. He did start the Mandalorian. He also worked on, if you've seen it, Christopher Nolan's Tenet. Like, that was his soundtrack. And I found out the other day, I didn't know this, but if you guys like music and you listen to an artist named Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, he's on I forgot, some YouTube video, and they're interviewing him. And he was on a show called Community that came out a long time ago. I don't remember, like the early 2000s. And Alison Brie introduced him to Ludwig Göransson. So I didn't know this whole time. I was like, dang, I was conditioned to like this man's music this whole time, because he made the soundtrack for Childish Gambino's albums. He made all the music, composed it all. So ever since like the early 2000s, Ludwig has been in my brain. And then now that I hear it, I'm like, I've already liked this man, and he incepted me. I got incepted to like this man already. So yeah,
literally.
But the Mandalorian soundtrack is it's its own beast. Like
it's so Wild West.
Yeah.
Yes. Wild West. Yes.
Exactly.
Like a gunslinger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man out on a mission.
Yep.
Lone wolf.
And I got to say this too about his theme, and like just relating it to like, music and Star Wars and like my life and like Star Wars and my heart. What's crazy is I used to have the Mandalorian theme song as my alarm and as my ringtone. And my dog, I have a border collie. She never howls. Like, she's never howled once in her life before this. The first time she heard that song come out of my phone, she started howling to the theme song. And I'm like, okay.
Oh my god!
Yeah, Star Wars is a part of my life.
It's doing something.
Even the animals are like, I
vibe. Strong here.
Yeah, the force.
I vibe. Vibe.
Oh, the force is strong with this song. Oh my, that's amazing. Holy moly,
it's crazy.
Man. That's crazy. Again, music.
That is crazy.
Music could just move everything. It sounds, and everyone who can hear relates to it. It's so good. It's so good, and I will again. I wish I could talk about it forever, but just like everyone's adventure, feel like comes to an end, but that doesn't mean it's the end of the journey. It just means it's the end of the episode. So I just wanted to say, if there's any final thoughts you guys have on Star Wars as a whole, go ahead and lay it down for me. I'll if you need some time to think, I'll just say again, Star Wars for me, after going through this all, it kind of helped me paint a picture even better. Talking about it like this is kind of like why I wanted to do the podcast, so we could get people on who are like-minded or even just have some thoughts or anything in this field, which is Star Wars. And I'm like, dang, I feel like I see it better than I have seen it before, because I had someone else to talk to and bounce off ideas and relate to with it. But like, again, Star Wars is just a part of my life that has helped me get through some things, whether it be with the music or the actual story and just entertainment or awesome gaming or the novels like I'm listening to right now that are, again, like they've got me hooked. But like, Star Wars is just a lifestyle. That's what I'm gonna say. Star Wars is a lifestyle to me. That's how I feel. It's a lifestyle, kind of like you said, religion. It's a lifestyle, and I'm on board for it. And no matter where they go, I'm probably going to be there. So that's how I feel. I don't know about you guys, but
yeah. So I'll pick up right after you. I was going to say, if you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to be a Star Wars fan forever. So I don't need to convince you of that. But if you have never gotten into Star Wars and you've always heard it thrown around, what I would tell you is you've probably heard about The Mandalorian. You've probably seen toys. You've probably seen your coworkers talk about it, family talk about it. I know some families that have traditions where, I remember when season 1 came out, it was like, what are we doing for New Year's? Well, we're catching up to freaking season 1 of Mandalorian. And then the next episode, the final episode comes out next week, and then we'll watch it again. And it was just like, there's families, there's friendships, there's bonds that are being made with this series. And so if you've never given it a shot, give it a shot, because this is a huge story, not to the point where you're overwhelmed, but it's a huge story and a wonderful masterpiece that is all just part of one canvas right now. And, you start somewhere, you get hooked, and you start somewhere else, you get hooked on that. You're playing the games, you're watching the movies, you're watching the shows, you're listening to the music, you're reading the books, and then just putting all of that together, you're going to have a wonderful experience if you haven't already given Star Wars a chance. It's for everybody, whether you think like that's space, mumbo jumbo, it's not good for me. What I would say, just kind of like what I said about anime, if you're willing to watch Stranger Things, if you're willing to watch Game of Thrones, if you're willing to watch all these other shows, Star Wars is also up there in your alley. Like, you just don't know it yet, but it's there. Like, if you can watch those series, you can definitely give Star Wars a chance. Absolutely. So in my opinion, you should. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah,
absolutely. And just to piggyback on what you're saying, I mean, I feel like a lot of people out there, they don't like Star Wars because of some random stigmas that are in their mind about what Star Wars is, or they have like these false ideas that they've heard from other people who don't like it. So they're thinking like, well, because I've been told that it's bad or that it's not worth my time, it's not worth my time, rather than actually just giving it a shot and seeing where the ride takes you, because this landscape that George Lucas started is infinite, and there are an infinite amount of things and stories that can be told within this universe. And it's honestly just being started. Like, it only just got picked back up 20 years ago. So 100 years from now, if, barring a nuclear Armageddon or, a meteor crashing into us, it's going to be around.
It's going to be amazing. Yeah.
It's one of those things that, like, if I ever have kids, like, they're going to be into Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to force it on them, but like it's going to be something that I want to pass down to them. That's like, very important to me, and teach them like the importance of how it's helped me. And yeah, it give it a shot.
Please do.
It'll find one of your heartstrings. It'll hit that, it'll hit one of those strings. And the only other thing I got to say is thank you guys for having me on. This is freaking totally awesome. Like awesome. I love,
thank you, man.
Just met Masaya for the first time, and I'm like, yo, I love this, man.
He's a cool dude.
I love this. Like,
yeah, I feel the same way, man.
Yeah, I talk to Gary like every now and then.
Yeah.
We talk consistently on that every now and then angle, but it's it's awesome. Like it's amazing having this commonality with people, how it can like grow your own like friend group community, so on and so forth. It's
exactly.
Awesome.
And that's all, like I said, the way we're here right now is because I talked to Masai. I was like, yo, man, like we got a lot of stuff that I feel like we got in common. I want to kind of just talk about it and get into the bottom of how we were. So that's why I wanted to do this podcast, which I don't know. The title for right now is The Things That Made Us. So right now, this episode is The Things That Made Us Star Wars fans. And yeah, again, Star Wars, whether it be, we got to look at it. Like we got to stop looking at things in like giant boxes. Like, oh, this thing here equals nerd stuff. I'm not a nerd. I can't look at it. I can't look at it like that. You got to look at it deeper. Like there's so much that goes into story build. You can look at it from like a music person and just watch the movies or shows and listen to it from like, oh, the music in here is really great. You can see it from that. Or like someone who wants to be like a director, a producer, or a cinematographer, like you can look at it from like, look how they're creating these scenes and see it from that point of view and break down. Cause it's more than just like this nerdum thing that you see on Twitter, people getting upset because, Luke Skywalker didn't, swing his lightsaber or fight in the movie. Like it's more than that. That's just like the surface level of stuff. You got to ignore that. Like everything out there cinema wise has something in there that you could pull from and enjoy and probably resonate with. Unless you're Transformers. And yeah, it's but I'm
Rise
sorry.
in the Beast in theaters now. Yeah.
I'm sorry I said that out loud, but I let my intrusive thoughts win. But yeah, this is honestly again great because I really wanted to sit down and talk to other people who were like me, had a same sort of understanding and wanted to just really celebrate. This is more like a celebration of Star Wars in our life and like thanking it for having us get this far with it and how it became, molded us into the people we are a little bit today, and I'm glad you guys met. You guys could probably hang out. That's what happens. I introduce a lot of my friends and they hang out more than I do. So, we all have stuff in common, right? Like we all like Star Wars and we have all been emotionally and physically, mentally scarred from Valorant. So, there we go. There we go.
And League of Legends.
We're not too different. We're all from the same cloth.
Yeah, that's right.
And League of Legends.
Star Wars takes all. And yeah, just
Riot is taking over. Yeah,
exactly. So
get perma banned from League of Legends. I can't get perma banned from Star Wars.
True. From Star Wars. They can't kick me out of every theater.
Yeah. They will try. What's that like? Yeah, you will try.
You will try.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening or watching this episode. Don't make me kill you. I don't want to end, bro, but I don't want to. I really wish I could just keep going, man. Honestly, this is great. But yeah, thank you guys for listening or watching. Hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Peace.